Good morning, everyone. I'm here at Vienna main station on my way to Budapest, Hungary. It's gonna be about photography, videography, camera gear, and of course, enjoying the city. So come along. I'm gonna go because the train's leaving in a minute. Welcome to Budapest, Hungary. My name is Thomas Eisl. I'm a professional photographer from Vienna, Austria. Photography is mostly about storytelling. And the story I'm gonna tell today is the story of my trip to Budapest, but also the story of two cities. Two cities which have been linked historically throughout the ages. A troublesome relationship at some times, but a relationship nonetheless. Budapest and Vienna, well, those two cities are what I'd like to consider siblings. And once I arrived in Budapest, I immediately noticed all the parallels between Vienna and Budapest. It really felt like coming home. And it was actually a nice coincidence that our train was called Spirit of Vienna, right? Enough talk. I've got my OM system, OM-1 Mark I, with the 20mm f1.4 Pro here, and of course my luggage. And now it's gonna be a walk to the hotel, and I'm gonna actually get the first impressions of the city. So here is the first tip: always have your camera ready. You never know what you're gonna encounter, even when you just walk to the hotel. And that is really what I'm gonna do. Go to the hotel and see whether I can snap a photo here and there. Let's go. I arrived at the hotel, but the room is not ready yet. That's not a big deal because my Micro Four Thirds gear is so light that I can just carry it around on my backpack. Nonetheless, there is a small change I'm going to make, and that is the 20mm f1.4 Pro goes into the camera bag, and from now on I'm gonna work with this one, that is the 12 to 45 f4 Pro. A super compact, professional grade travel zoom. I love this lens a lot, and I just have more flexibility because when walking from the main station to the hotel, I noticed that 20mm is sometimes a bit tight for architecture, and there are definitely some interesting buildings to photograph here to tell the story of Budapest. So this is the first site I'm gonna visit here in Budapest, and that is the Central Market Hall. On my way here from the hotel, I took some street photos with the 12 to 45 f4 Pro. And this is actually a situation where I want to change lenses. But first, I'm gonna grab a shot of the market hall itself, the so-called establishing shot that sets the scene. And then I'm gonna switch to the 20mm f1.4 Pro because, well, there is not so much light as outside, and having an aperture of f1.4 at my disposal is great. So I'm gonna snap a shot, and then it's on to reportage photography inside this wonderful market hall. So even photographers need a break from time to time. And over here, well, that's the good stuff. That's the spicy stuff. That's why you come to Hungary, right? I'm gonna enjoy this one. I said that Vienna and Budapest have much in common, and yet not everything is the same. And actually, this market hall is a perfect example for that. In the past, Vienna used to have many of these great market halls. People went there for shopping, groceries, and basically everything they needed on a daily basis. So it is really nice to be able to visit this market hall in the middle of Budapest and really get the same vibe that you were able to get in Vienna 10-20 years ago. In a few minutes, I'm gonna move on and I'm gonna walk through the city and just see what I'll discover there. I'm gonna leave the 40mm on there, gonna get used to this focal length, and yeah, so see you in a minute. After a few hours of street photography here in Budapest, I decided to pay a visit to the local American embassy and get a drink there. And now after that, I'm on a boat, right? So, well, that's actually how the first day is gonna end. I'm gonna enjoy a little river cruise here on the Danube. And actually, I don't just have this Coke with me, but also a nice glass of fake champagne, which I'm gonna enjoy, and I'm gonna snap some shots of the sun going down over the Danube and hopefully some scenery. But mostly this is also about enjoying the first day here. After a tasty and a bit fancy breakfast, I'm ready for day 2 to photograph the streets of Budapest, make some lasting memories, and, frankly, just enjoy the time here. It's a bit rainy outside, so before I go out there, I thought it's a great opportunity to talk a little bit about lenses and lens choices for reportage and travel photography, to be more specific. So for this trip, I brought 2 lenses in particular. The first lens is the M Suico 12-45mm f4 Pro. So this lens is in my camera bag as it covers all the traditional reportage focal lengths. So I'm talking about 24mm to 90mm in 35mm equivalents. With those focal lengths in your camera bag, you can capture basically everything you're gonna encounter on the streets. You got the 24mm for interior shots, for landscape, for scenery, whatever, but also for ultra close-up street photography work. And going up all the way to 90mm, you've got everything that you need when you cannot get as close to your subject as you might want to. And what I appreciate a lot about the 12 to 45 millimeters is that it doubles as an almost macro lens, right? So you can get very, very close with this lens and capture all these little details that you might want to add to your travel reportage to make it more interesting, to make it more visually diverse. So what about a maximum aperture of f4? Well, that is actually pretty fast. Remember the famous saying that is what to do to capture the shot? Well, f8 and be there, right? So f4 gives you the equivalent depth of field of f8 in 35 millimeters equivalent. So we got the f8 and be there lens with the 12 to 45 millimeters. And really, I rarely see the reason to stop this lens down even further, especially when documenting street life and just getting these average shots, because with f4 I get enough depth of field, but I also get enough background blur to really give me the necessary subject separation to tell the viewer what to look at. My video light just went out, so we're gonna continue without it. Sorry for the little change here. I should have charged that. Be that as it may. Let's go on with the next contender. And that is, of course, the M-Suico 20mm f1.4 Pro. So why did I bring a prime lens in addition to the 12 to 45 millimeters? Well, pretty simple. f4 is fast enough for daylight. It is fast enough for 99% of all interior shots, as with the OM system OM-1 Mark I's fantastic image stabilizer I can handhold, well, 1 second without any issues really. Well, I have to pay a little bit attention to that, but not too much. So that is not really the thing, but nonetheless, having a fast prime is something that I always recommend, because sometimes you just cannot utilize these super slow shutter speeds. I'm talking about moving subjects on the streets, especially at sundown or but early in the morning, before sunrise, right around sunrise. So you really want a fast prime lens in your camera bag for those situations. Of course, you can crank up the ISO, and with the OM-1 Mark I, I'm confidently shooting 12,800 in terms of ISO. But nonetheless, it is always great to really have a fast prime lens to keep the ISO down in general, and also it is just my recommendation and my philosophy when it comes to photography that I always use the right lens for the right job. And I'm just not a believer of like making a zoom lens work for everything. Having a fast prime lens for low light situations is just a must. Also, of course, an aperture of f1.4 gives you a little bit more shallow depth of field, so you can achieve a different look to really spice up the overall set of images that you get for your travel reportage. So that is that. Both lenses are OM system M-Suico Pro lenses, which means they are full metal exterior, they are weather sealed, and they deliver stunning image quality, even wide open. So be it f1.4 or f4, I can use these lenses confidently at these wide apertures actually. Stopping them down makes them a little bit better, but not too much. So basically that's a real f1.4 lens. And as you might know from older lenses, not necessarily from the Micro Four Thirds system, but in general, usually you have to stop lenses down to get good performance out of them. Well, and that is actually amazing that you don't have to do that with these Pro lenses. One last remark when it comes to choosing the right focal length for your fast prime lens. Usually I'm more of a wide angle guy. My saying is as follows. With a wide angle lens, you can always step closer and get the shot. But if your field of view is too narrow, well, then you are usually out of luck, because in reportage photography, you pull up your camera, you see what you see, you snap away. And stepping back is always a bit dangerous, right? You can fall over stuff and, well, you always have to look over your shoulder. At the end of the day, you're gonna miss the shot. So usually wider is better, at least for me. However, when I go to a city for the first time and I don't know how people react to a photographer, to being photographed in public, well, then I usually like to go a little bit narrower because I can just keep my distance. I can still get interesting compositions, but I don't have to be as close as usual. And especially when combining the kit with a lens as wide as the 12 to 45 Pro, I basically have all the choices. Even though I have to admit that for me as a wide-angle guy, it feels a bit narrow at times. Especially when I'm at a cafe or in a restaurant or in the market hall, well, then usually, I'm more of a wide-angle person, right? As I've said many times now. Be that as it may, the 20mm f1.4 is a definitive recommendation if you are the type of person who doesn't want to get as close to a street photography subject as I might want to. Enough said, the rain outside almost stopped. It's still a few drops here and there, but everything in this kit is weather sealed, so I'm ready to go and I'm gonna hit the streets of Budapest. See you. Of course, as a fashion photographer, I have to go to Fashion Street, right? Well, jokes aside, I got a couple of tips for you when it comes to street photography. Okay, friends, so as I said, Fashion Street, that's a place for a fashion photographer to be, and I'm meeting great people already. Say hi.
Hi!
Yeah. Hi everyone to you. I totally know all these people, right? So
Yes, we know you too. We're good friends. Yes.
Like and subscribe on YouTube. Thomas
What's your name?
It's Thomas Eisl. Thomas Eisl photography, right?
Okay,
You're gonna find me on Insta, but also on YouTube.
Yes, we will follow.
Hey, I'm totally gonna follow back, right?
Yes.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Hey. Thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with a photography tip. And the photography tip I'd like to share with you is about autofocus, manual focus, focusing in general. And here is the tip. Turn SAF, CAF plus MF on. It allows you to grab the manual focusing ring and just override the current autofocus operation, especially when combining it with back button autofocus. So for that, you have to disable half press autofocus operation in your camera's menu and enable AF on with the AF on button. It is actually a very powerful tool to nail focus every single time. And here is a practical example. Let's say you want to focus on a subject on the other side of the frame. You've got your AF target point on the right-hand side, but the subject is on the left-hand side. Of course, you can move the AF target point over there, but in reportage and street photography situations, that is probably too slow. But with AF plus MF enabled, you can just grab the focusing ring and focus on the subject no matter where it is in the frame. To make this method of acquiring focus even better, activate focus peaking. With that, well, you've basically set up your camera to get the shot every single time. That is, by the way, one of the reasons why I love OM system cameras so much. This unique combination, well, it is just incredibly useful in so many situations. And with all these settings enabled, your reportage photography is set up for success every single time. So let's go. Hello everyone and good morning. Last full day for me here in Budapest and I'm super hyped. Well, this day is really focus on photography. I had a great breakfast, I'm ready to go and well, I'm really looking forward to exploring some different parts of the city. One thing up front, today I basically slimmed down my vlogging kit drastically. So it's the OM system OM-1 Mark I with a small rig cage and a small rig handle, and I removed the Rode VideoMic Go 2 from the OM-1. I'm basically just vlogging with what's on the camera, so what you get when you purchase an OM-1 Mark I. And the great thing is, OM system is not only known for excellent cameras but also for excellent audio equipment, and the microphones built in to the OM-1 Mark I are perfectly capable of recording high quality audio, as you're gonna see today. So it's gonna be fast, it's gonna be exciting, and yeah, I'm just ready to go. Oh, and by the way, if you didn't notice, I got a new haircut from Mr. Wilkinson's Sword yesterday. That's awesome. Well, enough jokes, see you.
She said she couldn't believe why I waste my time on this. Bullshit mentality isn't a thing that I would miss, but I still remember those days when we used to kiss on a lazy afternoon.
To walk or to take the ride? That's the question. Of course, it's gonna be walk, because as a street photographer, I've got good shoes, right?
She said she couldn't believe why I waste my time on this. Bullshit mentality isn't a thing that I would miss. Now I can't stop wondering why you
Pro street photography tip: if there are lots of tourists, just photograph the tourists.
really adore your new disguise. The blood is rushing through my veins when we play that game, although it's the same thing every time. You are frozen like ice. Baby, why'd you have to be so cold?
When it comes to reportage photography, there are basically two approaches. The first one is, of course, the slow and deliberate approach. You wait for scenes to develop and you just take the images then. You also might wait in a specific spot and just grab the shot once a passerby is in the right place. And the other approach is actually the super fast run and gun approach. I usually recommend the second approach. Why? Because then you have less time to think about whether you should capture a shot or not. And that is usually beneficial, because if you hesitate in reportage photography or street photography, then you probably lose an excellent image. Well, not probably, most likely. So that is that. For me, yesterday was the slow approach, and I got considerably less images. And today I feel more like run and gun, so I got more keepers there. Run and gun, by the way, does not mean that you should leave a scene immediately. It just means that you just go in fast, right? And once you find something interesting, you can definitely hang out and capture more shots. You actually should do that. You should work your way in. I'm gonna show these techniques in future videos, so stay tuned. Now I'm gonna get back on the streets. All good things come to an end and everything goes full circle. My trip to Budapest is about to end and I'm back to Budapest main station. Before I catch the train, I hope you enjoyed this trip with me so far. I'm gonna share a few more insights regarding gear and camera settings once I'm back in Vienna. But now it's time to catch the train and, well, take some notes and just browse through the images, make a pre-selection maybe. Well, and the great thing is that with the OM system OM-1 there are many neat features to do that, for example, like the rating feature. Enough talk, I'm heading off to the station and see you in Vienna. I've arrived in Vienna and I'm in front of my computer here in the studio. The first thing I do is I'm gonna transfer all the images from the camera to the computer. The way I love to do that is I'm connecting the OM-1 via Wi-Fi directly with my computer where I run OM Workspace. There I can just select all the folders I like and import everything in there. And here is the bonus tip. After transferring all the images, do not delete the images from the card. Just leave them on there. Use the OM system OM-1's assign save folder feature, create a new save folder and continue shooting. Because by doing that, you've basically just created a first backup. You've got the images on your computer and you still got them on the SD card. And I am a careful person when it comes to backups actually. So what I'm doing afterwards is I'm gonna create a backup to another external drive. So after I finished all these things, I got actually 3 places where my files reside: on the camera, on the computer, and on the external backup drive. So that's what I'm gonna do right now and see you in a second. So the backup is done, no risk of losing data anymore. And now I'm gonna show you where I actually put all my camera gear. I mean, you probably noticed during the filming of the vlogs that I was carrying a rucksack. And here is the rucksack I was using. This is the OM system CBG-12 camera backpack. So this backpack is actually designed for professional use. So when you're on location, you have to carry a lot of stuff. I'm talking about 2 camera bodies, 3 to 6 lenses, camera flash, maybe even a tablet for tethering, external monitors, and, well, just a lot of stuff. And it is actually perfect for that. It is super comfortable to wear. It has all the adjustable straps, and honestly, it is the best camera backpack I've ever owned. I'm usually not the camera backpack guy. I keep buying camera backpacks and selling those off rather quickly because I'm actually preferring having a camera bag around my shoulder for accessibility and stuff like that. But really, on a long trip, when you have to carry a lot of stuff, then a camera backpack like the CBG-12 is just perfect. And on this trip, I had this camera backpack only half full because I was carrying only 2 lenses, 2 OM-1s, well, and 1 lens attached for filming, and a few other bits and pieces I'm gonna show you in a future video. So the camera backpack was only half full. And this is actually necessary when you are using a camera backpack like the CBG-12 on a trip. Why? Because these camera backpacks are designed to store equipment only. So if you want to store like your jacket, your rain cover, your water bottle or whatsoever, you really have to make room for those inside the camera backpack by moving the dividers down a little bit and create kind of a compartment inside the camera backpack. So that is just a side note. There is also, of course, the type of camera backpack which has 2 compartments. You've got a compartment on the bottom and a compartment on top, which is usually without any dividers and just maybe some small pockets here and there. And those are more or less intended for just putting stuff in there like a jacket. That's convenient, but nonetheless, I just wanted to share that if you are interested in getting a camera backpack like the CBG12, well, then you can just move the dividers down and you are getting there as well. Let's review the lens choices I made for this trip. So the 20mm f1.4 Pro and the 12-45 f4 Pro. Was I happy with those lenses? Well, no. I am absolutely hyped with those two lenses. Why is that? First and foremost, optically, they are just superb. I was expecting a high level of quality, but really, those are just two excellent professional grade lenses, both for photography and videography. And I can only attest to their quality after examining the photographs on my big screen here. So, you know, stuff always looks sharp when you look at it on the back screen of your camera, but the true test is when you examine them on a monitor. So yeah, I'm happy with that. In terms of focal length choice, I'm also happy. Really, it worked as intended. Interestingly, on the last day, I went mostly with the 12-45 because I was really looking for this wide angle experience and the possibility of getting closer to my subjects. So really, I was shooting at 12mm, 17mm, somewhere in between that sometimes. So that is that. Worked perfectly, really. The 12-45 performs very good throughout the whole focal length range, so no issues there. One thing I'd also like to highlight why these two lenses go together so well is that they both have the same filter size and also they share the same lens hood. So the LH61G fits the 12-45 Pro, but also it fits the 20mm f1.4 Pro. So that is pretty neat. If you break one of the lens hoods during your trip, you can always swap the remaining lens hood between the two lenses, which are hopefully still in working order and not broken. So an excellent duo for reportage and travel photography I can wholeheartedly recommend. But there is one piece of equipment I didn't really talk about yet, and that is actually the star and main protagonist of this video, and that is the OM system OM-1 Mark I. Let's put the camera in the spotlight. I'm gonna tell you up front, the OM system OM-1 Mark I is a very special camera. It is very dear and near to my heart. Why? Because this camera, well, it did a lot for me. It brought me back into the Micro Four Thirds system. It transformed my everyday work. It elevated my content creation, and well, this camera keeps inspiring me to create every single day. Since I bought my first OM system, OM-1 Mark I, there was rarely a day where I didn't capture an image or a video clip with an OM-1 camera. Now, of course, I've also purchased the OM-1 Mark II, but nonetheless, the OM-1 Mark I is the camera which started it all. So let me emphasize how good this camera is. The OM-1 Mark I is a professional grade, high-end camera that does everything you want it to do and much more, both in the stills and video department. It is, unlike other professional cameras, pocketable, and that is amazing. I brought two OM-1s on this trip, as you know, and well, those actually felt almost like compact cameras without the battery grip attached, but compact cameras in a good way, not ergonomics wise, because what I love about the OM-1 Mark I, maybe above anything else, are the excellent ergonomics. The hand grip is just crazy good, and when walking a full day through the streets, carrying a backpack which is light but nonetheless it's a backpack, and you keep holding a camera like that, well, you can tell after that day whether your ergonomics are okay or not. And believe me, they are not just okay, they are superb on the OM-1 Mark I. Also, I'd like to add the numerous computational features. I've talked about those a lot on the channel, and I did so because I wanted to emphasize that those are not just gimmicks. Those are very sophisticated and well thought through features that are real force multipliers. And on this photography trip, I actually proved that to myself once more. There is only one single feature of the OM-1 Mark I that I didn't use during this trip, and that was high-res shot. Why? Well, because I just don't need the resolution for my purposes at this point. But apart from that, I used everything. Live ND, focus stacking, HDR, so really everything the camera has to offer. And it just performed. The second part I'd like to highlight is that the OM-1 Mark I is an amazing video camera. Personally, I love the OM-Log 400 profile. It capitalizes on the full dynamic range of the OM-1's sensor, and with the right grading applied, well, the footage just looks amazing and it is super flexible to edit. Everything can be recorded in camera with high fidelity. There is no issue with overheating or anything like that. I never encountered that, and believe me, I've put this camera thoroughly through its paces. After the release of the OM-1 Mark II, the throne of OM system flagship camera belongs definitely to the Mark II. But that is amazing news for us photographers. Why? Well, because now you can get an OM-1 Mark I brand new from OM system for basically next to nothing. And if you are lucky, there is some sort of promotion going on, so you get free extra stuff. Really, if you do not own an OM-1 series camera yet, or if you are looking for a Mark I as a backup camera to your Mark II or whatever, now is the time to get a Mark I, as long as you can still get them new, I'd say. And well, to help you with that, if you are interested in purchasing a Mark I, I'm gonna put links in the comment section if I'm aware of any promotions or, well, price reductions or whatsoever going on, so you can just check it down there. I'm trying to keep it up to date throughout the lifetime of this video, and I strongly encourage you as well to leave replies to my comment highlighting current promotions so that we can keep this up to date and maybe help some people save money. Because really, no matter which price you pay for the OM-1 Mark I, every really euro, dollar, whatever, is money well spent. This camera is really that good. And I fully endorse this product because, well, it transformed my photography life. Thank you very much for watching. Please consider subscribing and following me on other social media, as well as becoming a channel member. The latter not only helps me to keep creating videos like this one, but also gives you access to exclusive content only available for channel members. Thank you very much again, and see you next time.